Sweet guys. Well, first off, I'm super stoked to have a friend of mine, coaching client, John Carroll. Awesome agent down in you're down in Florida, John. What market area are you in? If people have referrals, who can they send them to?
Yeah, so I'm Central Atlantic Coast, somewhere in between the Kennedy Space Center and Palm Beach, Florida. So it's called a town called Vero Beach, Indian River Counties, Space Coast and Treasure Coast.
Sweet. Awesome. So if you guys have anybody looking in that area, John Carroll and his team are amazing and they'll love to help you. What I thought we would talk about today is something that John's super passionate about, which is listings. And I think everybody is probably pretty passionate about listings right now because they are gold in this market. But John, you pretty much only work with sellers and have for how many years now?
Yeah, so for the last 5 years, I only work with sellers. So, yeah.
So that's interesting, right? Like, normally what I coach to is people that are like doing both buyers and sellers, but like John's like, look, I pretty much only do sellers. So we've been working on developing the buyer side of his business, but you've been sort of an assassin when it comes to listing. So what I wanted to talk about today is maybe we could start off with some of the different lead sources that you've focused on over the last 5 years on the listing side and maybe talk about those. So maybe walk us through how you decided to only be a listing agent, and then maybe what the different lead sources that you focused on.
Yeah, so when I got into real estate, probably about 7 years ago, I had a small natural food company, and it's kind of how I got into calling, right? So we started off, and my friend developed this product, and he was like the guy who was doing marketing, and I was the guy who was going to do sales. And so automatically I just figured out like I have to hit the phone and call people. And so we started calling these small natural food stores, and I developed a relationship with people, and I realized that I could use the phone to make money. And so it was very easy. I could sit at my desk and I can pick up the phone and I can call people and tell them about my product, tell them about myself, and have my way in. And I didn't have to go there, and so it was easy, it was efficient. So from there, that kind of fizzled out and it took its course. And then, so I got into real estate. So ultimately the first thing I did was one, I found somebody who could help me with a process. So like a coach or something. And then two, even before that, I just hit the phone so I knew that I had a father that was in real estate, and he primarily at that time was doing REO property, was heavy on the listing side. And I knew that I just didn't want to work at buyers at that point. I just knew that I really kind of wanted to focus more on listings. So that's primarily what I did. I started calling for sale by owners and expireds at first, and then did circle prospecting.
Interesting. Okay, so FSBOs, expireds, circle prospecting. Now, there's people on this call right now. They're like, well, there's no expireds in my marketplace, right? Or there's very few expireds in my marketplace. So maybe can you help people reset their mindset around that, or things that they can kind of look for opportunities in a market like this? That's pretty rare. We haven't seen markets like this too many times in history. It's record low inventory seems like is the theme everywhere. So how are you getting around that right now?
Yeah, so it's been like that for a couple of years, even in my area. And so the way I thought about that at first, I was just calling my immediate area, like maybe my town. And then it was realized that there wasn't that many expired listings there. And so what I did was I thought let me go outside of my area. So I just expanded that out. So to a larger geographic area. And then at first I was actually just using that time just to get the reps of the call. So I went out and actually I would book an appointment, and I would find an agent in that area and I would send them the referral. And then over time, I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to actually go to it. So I think what I did was I went out of the area. And so I knew maybe I got 2 or 3 a day, and on a typical day. And then from there, I knew I could probably go out and I probably get maybe 10 a day. So, yeah.
So that's how you did that. Okay, cool. And then, so for anybody that's listening right now, I mean, I've heard people tell me that it's super competitive when it comes to expireds and FSBOs, and they're getting calls from agents left and right. So would you be willing to kind of walk through your script a little bit and your process when you're following up with some of these leads?
Yeah. So ultimately I use a Mike Ferry script, and I modified it So I have a script book right here, and I have it committed to memory. So it's just really, it can change a little bit too. So
can I role play it with you? Can I be the client?
Yeah.
Call
Yeah.
me. So should we do an expired or a FSBO?
Let's do expired.
Okay, so I'll be an expired listing, and I'm gonna be, I'll be as real as an expired would be. You know, I'll just tell you that I probably had 10 other people call me and see how you handle that, because I'm sure you've heard that many times.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Hello.
So Jason, John Carroll here, local realtor in the area here with Keller Williams. I'm just reaching out to you. I'm sure you realize that your property came across our computer as an expired listing, and I was calling to see, when do you plan on interviewing the right agent for the job of selling the property?
Well, you know, John, you're the 15th person that's called me about this. I don't know why you didn't come around last time when we had it listed, but you know, I've never heard of you before.
That's a great question. Yeah. And let me ask you this question. If you had sold the home while it was on the market, where were you guys going next?
Well, we're looking to move closer to my wife's parents down in southern Florida. So we're looking to move down, you know, lower part of Florida and near my her parents' house.
Okay. So you guys are considering moving closer to your parents down in southern Florida. Fantastic.
Yep.
And Jason, just a quick question for you. I mean, if I was able to bring you a buyer in the next 30 to 45 days in the property, I mean, could you still see yourself selling it?
I mean, yeah, we probably would, you know, at the right price, we probably would.
You probably would. Okay, fantastic. So when I hear folks say that, it tells me that we should get together. I have some time today at 2, or does 4 o'clock work better for you?
Well, you know, again, I've heard this from like a bunch of agents. John, you seem like a nice guy, but like people keep, you know, calling me and telling me the same thing over and over. I mean, if you have a buyer, you know, by all means, bring them over.
Fantastic. Yeah. And why do you think some agents, Jason, sell a lot more property in the area than others?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly why we should get together, Jason. I have some time today at 2, or does 4 o'clock work better for you?
Well, I'd have to talk to my wife, John, obviously, like she's also part of the decision. So I'd want to talk to her and make sure that she was okay with it as well. Perfect. You know, we really, you know, like the person we used last time, you know, he was a nice enough guy, and, you know, yeah, he was a nice guy.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so let's do this. I have you down for 2 o'clock. You talk with your wife. If that time doesn't work for her, we can always reschedule. I'll see you then.
Okay. So can you guys tell that he's practiced this? He's got it like muscle memory. I mean, he's got it dialed in, right? There's literally nothing I could say to you, John, that you haven't handled 100,000 times. Would you agree?
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Literally. And so maybe walk us through some of the science and magic that kind of work there, right? So like I was hitting you with some objections. What did you do really well to help me kind of work through that?
Yeah. So really, at first, you know, you're giving me this reflective no, right? So I call that a reflective no, or excuse me, a reflex no. And so you're just like, I'm just saying, hey, when you plan, you're like, no, I'm not interested. All right, perfect. And then I just move right past that, right? I just let it just kind of go past and move right past it. And asked you, if you had sold the property, what was the plan? Where were you going next? And then you kind of opened up and told me.
Yep.
And then I kind of gave you something juicy. I don't really like this close, or just it opens up the door. If I could bring you a buyer in the next 30 to 45 days, Jason, would that cause any problems for you? So I'm giving you like this carrot, right? And typically that I find out a lot by asking that question. Either you say, no, I'm not interested. And really, if then maybe you're not interested. And if you're not going to, if you don't want a buyer, right? If I had a buyer for you. Yep. But most of the times they say, yeah, right. I would be interested. Okay. So at that point, you're kind of, now I'm going to label you, right? So now I'm like, okay, so you are interested in selling, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. So when I hear folks say that, it tells me that we should get together. Now I'm going to close you, right? And guys, and I think for me on these expireds, it's a little bit different because I want to be a little bit more proactive and aggressive. I find that those folks, they've already been through the ringer with an agent, and they want someone they feel like is going to be aggressive, and is going to be not like disrespectful, but just as someone who's going to take their hand and be proactive and aggressive. And I've always heard this thought process with expireds that motivated sellers like aggressive sales agents. So that's kind of the mentality that I think about when I do expireds. Now, some of the other lead sources are going to be different, but that's how I handle them.
Okay, nice. So we've kind of covered like the expired. So how would you kind of change things if we were working with a for sale by owner? Would you be willing to kind of like role play that a little bit so we can hear it?
Yeah, so for sale by owners are strange right now, right? Because they're in my area, they're selling themselves. So I'm looking for on a for sale by owner. I'm really looking for someone that is really having a life change, maybe even pricing their property too high and not really realizing that they're pricing themselves out of the market. But for the most part, they're selling pretty quickly. But yeah, let's work on it.
Okay, cool. Ring, ring. Hello.
So, hello, I was looking for the owner of the home for sale.
Yeah, that's me.
How you doing? My name is John Carroll. I'm an agent here locally in the area. I'm working with a number of buyers and sellers here locally in the area. And I'm just calling to see if I can ask you just a couple of questions about the property.
Sure. What's up?
Okay, yeah. So have you done any changes, perhaps modifications to the inside of the property that you believe might affect its value in some way?
Well, yeah, we've done, lots of renovations. We added granite countertops, hardwood flooring, we've painted. The cupboards are updated as well. The roof's only 5 years old. So yeah, the house it's nice. It's been nicely updated.
Great. Yeah, okay, so the house is nicely updated. You guys done a lot of work to it. Fantastic. It seems like a really nice house. Jason, how come you're selling it?
Yeah, we just need to move.
You guys just need to move. So you're making a transition out of the area. Okay. And then, so when you sell the property, Jason, where are you going next?
I would probably want to move to a bigger house, maybe across town.
Okay, got it. So I see here you have the property listed for about $500,000. Makes sense. I mean, how did you determine the sales price?
Well, I interviewed a few realtors. They kind of gave me their ideas, and then I just kind of went with the highest price.
Okay, so you interviewed a few agents. They gave you some ideas, and you went with the highest price. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Perfect. And if you guys decided, if the home didn't sell, I mean, do you have someone that you would choose? One of the agents that gave you an idea on price?
I think so. Like there was one that we seemed to really like get along with that we probably would call.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So how long do you think you'll take before you consider working with an agent like myself to list a property and help you get the home sold?
I mean, it seems like things are selling pretty quickly right now, so we're pretty confident we're going to be able to sell it pretty fast.
Got it. Okay. And Jason, just a quick question for you before I let you go. I mean, if there's a significant advantage for you to work with me rather than doing it this way, I mean, would you consider it?
I mean, like I said, we did interview some other agents. There was one in particular that we seemed to really like. So, I mean, I kind of feel like an obligation to them.
Okay. Got it. And I guess if there was a better way, I mean, if one agent can get more money or net more money from the sale rather than or over another agent, is that something that you'd consider taking a look at, maybe get a second opinion on price?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'd be open to it. We would like to sell for the most money possible. I mean, that'll help us with the purchase. And we thought, if we saved the $20,000 in commissions, that would definitely give us more of a leg up for our next property.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah, I have some time today, at 6 o'clock. I would love to come by and take a look at the property, maybe give you a couple of tips and tricks about how we get the property sold for the most amount of money. I have some time today at 2, or does 4 o'clock work better for you?
Well, I mean, I'd have to talk to my wife and confirm it with her as well, and she's at work right now. So if you want, I can call you back.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, here's my number. What's a good email address for you?
Jason at blah, blah, blah at yahoo.com.
Okay. So actually, I'll be in the area picking up a lockbox and sign up for property, Jason, at around 2 o'clock. What I'll do is I'll swing by, take a look at the property. If you're there, fantastic. And we can go over some ideas on how to get the property sold. How about that?
Sure. Yeah, I'll be home. Yep. Just pop on by.
Okay. Perfect. Or I might use that same clothes that I used before with the wife,
Yeah.
Talk with your wife. If that time doesn't work, it's your schedule.
Right. Nice. So again, slightly different approach, but not that different from the previous one, right? You're always kind of like, where are you moving to next? Trying to get them to think about where they're going, try to get to their motivations and their reasons for selling. What are the most common objections that you're seeing with for sale by owners right now, and maybe some expired listings? What are the main objections? I assume they're the same over and over.
Yeah. So with expireds, it's different than for sale by owners, but for sale by owners is all about net, right? Netting the most amount or making the most amount of money. So it's all about what's more important to you, Jason? Is it selling the property, or is it netting the most amount of money? What's more important for you? Those questions. Also, there's honestly, I do a lot of doubt dropping, how would you open-ended questions of mean, how would you feel if you sold the property, Jason, and you knew that, after you sold it, that you didn't sell it for as much money as you could, or like, I mean, could it be possible that I could sell the property for more money than you? I mean, if we got into it, right, we can kind of have these conversations. Could it be possible that an agent like myself would, could bring you more money than you can sell yourself?
Right.
So a lot of doubt dropping for those.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. So we talked about FSBOs, we talked about expireds. What was another main lead source that you've been focusing on? Circle prospecting in neighborhoods?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Well, let's go through that process, what that looks like. So maybe walk us through sort of your strategy when you're doing circle prospecting, and maybe for anybody listening, you can explain what that's about.
Yeah, so circle prospecting is just going to be off just listed and just sold properties. I feel like just sold properties are juicier than just listed properties. However, we're selling, a bunch of properties in an area, so I like those just sold properties. I primarily work, the way I think about this lead source for my area, and this is how I tackle it, is I like a large, like almost like a farm, and something that's, as a price point, the homes are built similar years, and the price points are similar, and I can actually sell a property on, 3 miles away, and I can actually call a homeowner, on the other side of that neighborhood, right? So I'm calling like a large 3,000 home block, and I'm just farming that basically like a phone farm.
Yep. Okay, cool. All right. So that's the strategy. So you're calling around properties that you've just sold? Is that your strategy?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. So
and you can call around, like, I mean, really properties of other people in your office, or even homes that just sold. And you can see when I do this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it very gray, right? So
okay, love it. Joe Moretti, you want to be the telephone?
Ring, ring, ring.
Hello.
So Jason, John Carroll here, local realtor in Sebastian Highlands. How you doing today?
I'm good. How about you?
Fantastic. Thanks for asking, Jason. I just sold. I'm calling because I believe you own a property on ABC Street. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
Fantastic. I just sold the neighbor's property actually right around the corner from yours on ABC Street, and in fact, I brought multiple offers and $15,000 over their asking price. And now that I'm sold on that one, I was just reaching out to some of the neighbors to see. How about you guys? I mean, when do you plan on moving?
Well, I mean, right now we seem pretty content with where we're at, but I would be curious, like, what did you sell that property for? I saw that actually. I saw that on, I think it came up like on my Facebook feed or something.
Yeah, actually it did. Yeah, we sold that one. It was similar to yours. I think it actually was a little bit smaller, and we sold it for $350,000. I mean, if we could bring you an offer, Jason, for $350,000, I mean, could you see yourself selling?
I mean, ours is a little bit bigger, like you said. So, I mean, I think the money would have to be a little higher than that, but it's nice to see. I mean, we've owned it for 10 years and we bought it for, I don't know, 80,000 back then. So we've definitely seen some nice appreciation on it. So that's pretty good.
Yeah. So, so interesting enough, I'm taking a look at Zillow here, and you're right. It's saying that the property is probably worth about $400,000. I mean, Jason, if someone brought you an offer for $400,000 tomorrow, I mean, could you see yourself making that transition?
Possibly. I mean, I might be open to it for sure. At that price, it would make sense. It would be a pretty good return for us.
Great. So a lot of my clients find it helpful, Jason, or useful to get a realistic picture as far as what would be the absolute most they can expect to receive from the sale if and when they do decide to sell the property. Do you think that would be helpful to you and your family?
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt. I mean, you have a pretty good idea of the specs of our property and things like that you can probably pull up from the previous sale. We haven't really done a whole lot of updates since then. But yeah, I mean, if you had a buyer, I mean, we might be open for sure.
Great. So hearing you say that, what I would like to do is this, and I simply don't mind. What I'll do is simply pop by, take a look at the property, and what I could do is show you a couple of things pretty clearly. The first one is very specifically and realistically, what would be the absolute most we can expect to receive if and when you do decide to sell the property. And the second thing I could talk to you about, Jason, is the process and the timing. So whether it's sooner, later, me, or somebody else, at least you'll have all the information moving forward. Does that sound fair to you?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. It's just me. I just own the property myself. So yeah, I mean, I'm not emotionally tied to it. Money does talk.
Great. So I have some time today at 2, or does 4 o'clock work better for you?
4 o'clock would work better for me. I got a few things I got to wrap up before then.
Great.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. So, okay. So circle prospecting, it's digital farming in a sense, right? So anybody that's listening, there's definitely people out there that have built businesses like solely around basically exactly what you're doing. You're one of them. What do you find is the reality? If you were to talk to, say, 20 homeowners and you're doing this, circle prospecting, how many legit opportunities do you think can come from that normally?
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. So last week I called that same neighborhood, found the owner of a duplex. I kind of uncovered some needs, and he said he wanted to sell his duplex, and he actually said, I have 3 more that I want to sell. So listed that one and mentioned, he's like, I don't know if I don't want to flood the market with it. So I was like, there's no such thing as flooding the market. But so we went through that. I ended up listing all 3 of them. Just took one, and what we're going to do is stagger them, take the buyers from one and bring to the next. And the fantastic thing is the market's great right now. So I'll just grab the buyers and move them to the next one and hopefully double end them. So those opportunities, and like say last year I did maybe 15 deals off of circle prospecting.
Wow, nice. So where do you get that information? So what are like the technology tools that you use and rely on to get this information for your FSBOs, your expireds, and for your circle prospecting?
Yeah, so I've used a lot of different things, and right now I think it's, for me, just because I'm not like super technical and organized. Per se, I'm a salesperson, so I'm using right now Mojo as a dialer, and I use a 3-way dialer, and I call these, and I think that you have to be careful when you're using one. Obviously, I think there's rules against that, whatever your area is, but it's different. So, and then I use their neighborhood search, and I just plot out the area and I just call it.
Okay, nice. And so for anybody that's like thinking about getting into circle prospecting, maybe working FSBOs and expireds, I mean, what are some tips that you can give people on, okay, so Mojo Dialer is one of them that you brought up. For Canadians on the call, be careful. Obviously, do not call lists are a big thing in Canada. So you want to make sure that you're scrubbing your lists. Maybe some other tips, like roughly what kind of budget would somebody need to run a campaign like this?
Yeah, it's great, right? Because I find that circle prospecting and prospecting in general is the most profitable thing you can do, right? So not that much money. So my dialer is $150, and I pay $50 a month for a neighborhood search, and then there you go, like $200 a month, 15 deals. Say, what is that? I made a couple $100,000, right?
Yeah. That's a really good return on your time. And so, John, so you did about 15 deals last year from circle prospecting, just like you mentioned. Roughly how many were FSBOs, expireds, and then maybe other lead sources?
Yeah, so expires have dwindled a little bit. So last year, I wouldn't say I've done that many. So 8 last year, maybe expireds. Just solds have increased. So I find that right now there's a shortage of listings, and in my mind I'm thinking like, hey, like I can just print money with circle prospecting. So I just got to sit in the phone and just call, right? And I think my contacts is like, honestly, I have to make like 300 contacts, 350 contacts per every listing taken. And those metrics I understand. And so I just got to stay on the phone. And what I do is I hit the phone in the morning, expireds. I call the last 7 days of the expireds. I filter them out, and I just hammer them every day. For 7 days, I'm just calling them, and with different numbers potentially, right?
Yeah. And
then from there, then after that, maybe around 9 o'clock, 8:45, I'll hit FSBOs, call through those, and then from there, it's really just circle prospecting, and then maybe then follow up on old leads, and then it comes 11:30. If I don't have a listing appointment in the afternoon, I set either 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock, then I'm on the phone again.
So how many contacts are you averaging per day on a dialer?
So today I hit 61 contacts. Yeah, and that's I think that's close to like 400 calls, and that's 4 hours of dialing time.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So 61 contacts. So you're probably getting a lot of people like not interested, click, right? Those count as contacts.
Correct. So anytime I'm having a real estate conversation, it's a contact. So again, so like I had that script, and you told me that you were someone that was an owner of a property, and then I'm going to grab your information, your cell phone information, or not your cell phone, but your your email. I'll
Yep.
put that over into a Real Geeks, right? Put you on a marketing report. Even if you're just somebody, I'll grab that data, and then that's another list I can call, right?
Right. Okay, nice. So, so for anybody that's listening, you've kind of figured out that for every 350 contacts that you make through your dialer, that you're getting one listing.
Right.
Is that about right? Okay. So you know that if you kind of stick to your formula, that 350 contacts, you're probably going to average that like every week, basically. Is that kind of your goal, is by the end of the week that you've averaged around 350 contacts?
Yeah. So, I'm trying to do 800 a month so it's about 200. I'm doing 40 a day. So,
Okay.
so last year, like I said, I did 12 or 15. So maybe I'll take like just sold every month, one of those. And yeah, so that's kind of the thought process there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, nice. What are some of the other strategies that you've uncovered around generating listings that are working for you that maybe we haven't even touched on today, John?
Yeah, so like so recently it's about building a database of just homeowners, sellers, right, and dripping on them. So I think that's a good strategy. I mean, I think it's pretty simple, really. There's just sold, there's absentee owners, right? You can filter those out too. And then through the Mojo neighborhood search, you can just there's a button you can click of, in Florida, everybody has another, second home here so like there's a lot of absentee owners. So and a lot of times I do a lot of listing presentations over the phone where I never actually even meet the person.
Right.
And actually I do a lot of listing appointments where I never actually go to the house.
Oh, interesting.
And so that's like perfect. I love those. Those are my favorite.
Yeah.
So absentee owners is another good one.
Nice. Well, why don't we do this, John? Why don't we open it up to some questions to anybody that's kind of listening, and we can kind of talk about listings. What I thought was neat about John is the way he's built his business is very prospecting heavy, which is similar to how we've built it, but very different, like where we get our business from, right? Like we don't really do in our group, we don't really do expireds. We don't do FSBOs a whole lot, and we don't really do circle prospecting. We're big on like internet leads, sphere of influence, social media, and branding. So, taking what we're doing, implementing it with what you are, I really think we can help you get some more listings. And of course, some of the things that we're taking away from you is going to help us in our business. So let's open it up, guys, and just ask away any questions you guys have around FSBOs, expireds, anything that you're thinking, because I know it's on your mind. You guys all want more listings right now. So I thought I'd bring on someone that's built it very differently than how we have, but again, been very, very successful and built a very, very predictable 6-figure income every single year.
One thing I wanted to add was when we did sort of that first role play on the expireds, John, you asked Jason, you were like, so talk to me about some of the reasons why you feel your house didn't sell. And Jay was like, I agree. He goes, I don't know. And you went, well, that's exactly why I'm calling. I wrote that down. I like that a lot. That was really impactful. Love it. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have any scripts, John, that you follow that you'd be willing to share with anybody if they wanted to put their email address down, then we can send it to them? If anybody wants to get some of these scripts, just put your email address in the chat and we'd be happy to send those over to you. Quiet audience.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You said that you do a lot of listing presentations with never even seen the home. I'm just wondering, how do you settle on a price if you've never seen it?
Yeah, super simple, right? I mean, everything is virtual now, right? So I can get an idea of it. For me, it's not a pinpoint to the penny, but it's certainly a very tight, realistic range. Always what's going to be reasonable with regards to the price. I tell them that too, right? So we don't know where it's going to sell, but I do know where it's going to sell in this range. And so, most of the times I have an idea where it's going to sell, and, I can, with my presentation, and again, I'm very scripted, as you probably can tell, I'm very scripted on the presentation, and I want to create a conveyor belt, right? So, I have the presentation with them. I email over, it's probably similar to what Jason does too. I email over the comps before we have our conversation. I pre-qual that prospect. And then I tell them I'm going to send over information to them. I send them over all the research to have them review it. We have the conversation over a Zoom call or even a phone call. And then I have them a presentation that I run through, and then I send them a DocuSign document. So now we're in agreement with regard to terms and conditions and how to position the property price-wise. Rob, do you have any other questions for me before we take care of the appropriate paperwork? No. Okay, perfect, fantastic. Then I'll send over the information to them, and then they'll sign it, and I'll send my photographer out there to take the pictures, give them the lockbox and a sign, and we'll list it, and they'll come back, and yeah, they'll sell.
Great, thanks.
I got a question for you, John. How many days a week are you role-playing and practicing your scripts and dialogues?
Yeah, so every day. I started 7:15 to 7:30. I have one lady that I prospect with every day. And it's kind of, we just work on like things that I might have been prospecting about myself. And we work on things together, like things that we can dive deep with. And then I have a group of people that I do a prospecting group with. And we do it from 7:30 to 8 and every day. And when I first started, I woke up at like, actually last year I was trying to get really perfect my listing presentation. And that really helped me a lot was I started honestly at 6:30, and I would go in and record and whatever and write it out, chant it for about 45 minutes. So I want to try to do like at least an hour a day.
Every day, like 7 days a week?
No, 5 days a week.
5 days a week, so Monday to Friday. So there you go, guys. He's practicing his skills, and I'm shocked at how few realtors actually practice their skills. It puzzles me. It's like, how are we going to be professionals and like take things to another level if we don't even practice, So it's really, really important that, find the peer group, find someone that you can practice with, find a group that you can practice with. But this is how you get to that next level in your business where you're really like making opportunities happen. Now, John is very much a hunter. The way he built your business, John, you're very much a hunter. So another question for you is, knowing what you're learning, working with us, what are some of the things now looking back that you're like, oh man, these are things I wish I've sort of started implementing in my business that people can learn from as well?
So I'm to a point now where I realize like time's important for me. Like I want more time, and I'm grinding at this, and every day for like all day, every day. And so and obviously I have a son and a son on the way. And so I want to like kind of start understanding, I read the book, The E-Myth, and realized that I want to create a business. So, I don't know. So yeah, I think ultimately, I probably could have built it a little bit less lopsided. Mm-hmm. And just to be honest though, however, I like what I do because this is who I am, and I think I have control over my time. I have a lot more control over my time, and I give all of my buyer leads away. I don't do any buyers. So I list property, and I have a lot of people that call me, and I route all those numbers to my buyer's agents. And so I have control over my time. And but yeah, I think maybe focus a little bit more on just less lopsided.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Somebody asked a question here, John. If you see FSBOs that are priced way too high, how do you approach or handle that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think you have to realize, like, first thing that comes to mind, and maybe this is just my gut feeling on it. So at where I'm at is that if they're even interested in selling or not, right? So first thing that comes to mind, they might not be interested in selling. So I just want to ask questions around that, understand their motivation. And if they're motivated, so for instance, I had a scenario recently of someone, they're getting divorced and they're motivated. However, they just don't understand how to price property. They're not a realtor, right? So completely way out of whack with their price. I'm just booking the appointment, I'm going, right? Because there's high motivation there. Now, if someone's priced high and there's like, well, listen, I don't have to sell, whatever, like I'm not pressured. I just kind of almost just trash it.
Right. That's great advice. I think we'll agree. Like the key is to get your foot in the door. You're not going to close on the phone, correct?
Right.
Usually, like you're trying to get your foot in the door so that you can kind of move it along in your process, because you need to kind of get that face to face or that interaction through Zoom, even with the clients, right? Is that kind of the approach?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. I think too many times people try to sell way too early, right? And there's not enough trust and rapport built yet. They kind of need to go through your process, and you kind of need to sort of educate them to get them to the point where you can kind of bring up sensitive topics like pricing. Because if you were to talk about that early in that phone call, they might get insulted and just hang up on you, right? So there's kind of probably a fine art to it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Cool. Excellent. What other questions do people have? It's one downside of Zoom, John, is people get shy, or it's not quite the same as being in a room.
Yeah, if you guys have anything, I'm an open book, really.
John, I've always found Mike Ferry's stuff to be a little, well, aggressive. And I'm wondering if you've had some pushback from people you've reached out to about it being maybe a little too blunt or too direct.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is very too direct. One of those objections is, will you adjust your commission? And no, any other questions?
I always love that one.
So prior to this, I left Mike Ferry, and so I agree. I don't think I think you're right. I think we need to understand how to build, have contribution, build empathy, align with the, and I know Jason does that with great, I was from Mike Ferry. I went and I've learned a little bit more about sales training and how that's important. So, but yeah, I would agree with that completely. I have had some issues with that. And it's when I made that shift, you kind of can hear in some of my language, it's a lot more amiable, a lot more coming some on the expireds. I think Mike Ferry actually, he does that really well. But on the other stuff, anything else, you have to have a little softer approach.
Okay, thanks.
John, how much time are you spending in your business now working on your past clients, your sphere of influence? Are you spending a lot more time in that area? Or are you still really heavily focused on just the hunting style, which is constantly looking for new sellers?
Yeah, and that's a great, I'm glad that you brought that up. That's kind of probably the one part that I would have probably worked more on, was kind of cultivating that. And but as it's interesting though, as before this conversation, I was going through my database and putting people on, segmenting them out just from past clients. And I have a lot of sellers that I've worked with, and a lot of those sellers are out of the area, or because I was trying to figure out, should I send them a postcard or not, and if it makes sense. So yeah, I think I'm someone who's very focused on hunting. You're right, but and it's kind of really neglected the COI side of it, and that's one of the things that we're working on. Yeah, putting something in place to help me with that.
We're working on the farming side, because the beauty of farming is crops pop up every year for you, whereas hunting, it's like a one-time kill, so you're constantly having to do that. So again, a nice healthy balance. Nothing beats prospecting, guys. It's super valuable, but it's nice to have some diversity in how you're approaching your business. So I think if you can learn to be a farmer and a hunter and add those elements into your business, that's how you get to the 2 Comma Club, right? That's the stuff that we're working with John to get him to that next level, because he's knocking on the door. He has everything there to get to the 2 Comma Club, and we're going to get you there, John. I have 100% faith, but we're going to need to make sure that we really add farming to it, because there's only so much hunting that you can do, and you can have a great income doing that. Believe me, I know lots of people that make 250, 500,000 a year doing that. But to get to that 7-figure level and bigger business, it does require doing both at a very good high level. And it's hard. You can't do everything really, really effectively and well, and you need to give time for things to work out. So again, this is not a knock on you, John. You've been super incredibly successful, and I appreciate you sharing today. But again, for you, I know you have big ambitions to get to that next level. You're starting to really understand now the importance of that farming side. And I want people listening too to understand it's good to have a balance.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think you're right. It's something that you just need accountability around that. I think I've always heard sometimes people it's one or the other. They're good at one or the other, but it's really a combination of both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and again, if it takes you 350 contacts in your dialer to get a listing, I wonder how many contacts you'd need to make if you were working your sphere of influence and people that already kind of know, and trust you. It's going to be a lot less than that. So again, if you can build that into your game, there's actually some efficiencies. You can still hit the phones the way that you do and have that efficiency and that control of time. But man, those are low-lying fruit that are sitting there, right? Some of the content strategy ideas that we're talking about, like the personal branding, putting yourself out there in your market so that you have a bigger audience. That's really great because it's mind share, right? So when you're prospecting, you're making things happen, which I love that. But when you're attracting business on top of it as well, and you're doing a combination of both, that's a lot of fun when you start getting like the calls are like, hey, I've seen your stuff and I'm thinking about selling my house and I thought I'd reach out to you. And that's stuff that I want everybody listening to this call, that you guys should be putting content out there. I wouldn't spend 8 hours a day, but if you even spent 20 minutes, half an hour creating content per day, it's only 2.5 hours a week. I guarantee you over the course of 12 months, that consistency of putting content out there will start getting the phone to ring. It's not going to happen immediately the way that prospecting can. So you need to prospect. You're not going to cut corners, but it will help you guys in the long run, and you're building a brand, right? There's a reason why Coca-Cola, we all know Coca-Cola, but why do they spend billions every year still on advertising? Because it's top of mind. We all know Coca-Cola. We don't there's not a single person on this Zoom call that's never heard of Coca-Cola, but why are they continually putting content out there and marketing? It's because it's that top of mind thing. So again, a mix of both is really, really critical. What other questions do people have? Anything around listings? Any ideas that you guys want to throw out there? Anything you want to share, contribute? Anybody nervous about making calls? Anybody have like fear of making calls? Be honest. Show hands. Anybody that's a little, yeah, Bonnie, that phone feels like it's 1,000 pounds. Oh, can't hear you, Bonnie.
I'm still so new to this. I have not even ever done that before. So
okay,
this is a whole new ballgame for me.
Yep. Well, Bonnie and I chatted last week, and I know that you happen to know a lot of people through some that you've done. So for you, with the big, like the amount of people that you know, start with that. Create a list, and we'll create a strategy, like a newsletter, put some video content out there so they know you're in the business, and then start building a strategy where you start reaching out to them. I think that would be a really smart place for you to start. And then in time, these are things that you can start looking at. And one thing I will say, there's like 30 different ways, John, you'll agree, that you can build this business, right? You have to find ways that work for you as well. So John is super comfortable with handling rejection and can easily go through a lot of rejection in a day and not have it affect his mental health or his relationships with his wife, or like he understands that it's a process, right? Okay, I know I need to go through those rejections to get to that one person that I'm going to list the property with. It just so happens when you do a return on this time, you're probably making $150, $200 an hour.
Right.
Pretty high hourly rate, I would say, right? Not too many people make $150 to $200 an hour. So John, your personality, you're able to kind of be like, look, I don't care if somebody rejects me, next, right? Some people are a little more emotional and they're going to get like, oh my God, this person hates me. Who cares? You do have to get to a point where you're like, who cares? Rejection is just part of the business. I get rejected on a daily basis. John, how many times did you get rejected today?
Yeah, so 400 calls minus 6, whatever. Actually, I got one appointment today. So yeah, so whatever that number is, I made 400 calls.
Yeah, he got rejected a lot today. But guess what? Has an appointment which could lead to $10,000, $12,000 today alone.
Yeah, after this call, right? So sent this morning on an expired lead. So
yeah, pretty damn good return on time, I would say. So once you can realize that and understand that everything you do is about consistency and systems, and most people aren't willing to do what it takes to be successful. John is a high income earner. Why? Because he has discipline and systems and he continually executes on them, right? Some of you may think you want to be successful, but when it comes down to actually putting in the work and the consistency, you may realize that you're for whatever reason, your motivation isn't truly there. And so I'm going to ask people to dig deep to find something that will help you push through those tough days. So John, for you, how do you stay motivated during those days where it is a grind? I mean, you're grinding it out. Let's be honest. It's not like rainbows and butterflies. How do you stay motivated?
It's a good question. And it's been a process. Like, so when I first started, like it's been a process, and like it's a muscle that I built like through time, and I'm still building it. So now it's like trying, my mantra this year is consistency. I want to hit 40 contacts a day and 200 contacts a week. So, and I know through consistency, I can hit my goals. And so that's important. So, but it's building that muscle and maybe starting off with, 10 contacts a day, then 20, then 30, then 40. And so whatever, so that's motivation will change over time. I have children now, and so that motivates me a lot, and goals and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think, and then also, I wanted to share this too, is I think it's a pretty neat thing, is that I have a group that I prospect with, right? So I have a hangout group that every day we get on a hangout group on Google Meets, and they're around the country. I have some of them are in Philadelphia, I have 2 of them in Florida, other ones up in upstate New York. And we'll start at 8 o'clock and we'll call to 11:30 and we're all on, right? And so we're just on mute, or we're listening to each other handle objections and that sort of thing. I'm to the point now where I don't really need to listen to them, or they don't need to listen to me, but we can learn from things as well by doing it. So sometimes that's been really helpful to me with staying accountable to the.
Yeah, one thing with John, he's super disciplined and he's big on accountability, right? So for you, if you don't have a peer-to-peer accountability group, create one. Surround yourself with people that have big goals and, want to push themselves. If things are just you make things too easy and you're kind of just like, well, I want to do this, but you don't set it as a standard, like the way John has. He's literally made everything that he's doing a standard Monday to Friday in his business. If you don't set that for yourself, you're going to find that you're going to easily fall off the motivation wagon, because there's only so much willpower that we have as human beings. And John, what's the theory behind why you do your prospecting and really make sure to do that early in the day? What's your rationale behind that?
Yeah. So, there's a couple different things, right? So I know that like through Harvard Business Review has done a study saying, I looked at when I first started this, that people pick up the most in the morning from like 9 to 10, and then in the evening, right, from 4 to 6 or 5 to 6. So that's one part. The second part is obviously I just want to kind of get that out of the way, or like when I'm as focused as possible before everybody starts bombarding me with like questions and just pulling me in every direction. So yeah, that's the other side of it.
Yeah. Do the highest willpower activities early in your day. Anybody knows that I'm a big fan of that. Get all the high willpower stuff early, because as the day goes on, your willpower dissipates. There's a reason why Steve Jobs and like a lot of these successful people wear the same color t-shirts every day, because it's one less decision they need to make. Steve Jobs literally had the same black t-shirt. He just probably had like 50 of them, but every day was a very easy decision for him to make first thing in the morning. He picked a black shirt, and that was literally as much thought as he had to put into it. Because if you think, if every decision you're making in your day is like this big decision, you're going to be exhausted and drained by the end of the day, right? So again, doing these things early, making those commitments early and building these standards is again how you build a very successful, predictable, healthy 6-figure income like what John's done. There's a question here from Maggie. This is a good question. It's not a basic question. I think it's a good one. Is expired and physical calling like John does a marketing pillar? Yeah, that is a marketing pillar for John. It's a very important pillar in his business that for him has for 5 years has sustained a healthy 6-figure income for his family. So for him, that's a healthy pillar. Should all agents be doing it? No, not all agents should be doing it, right? John, would you agree with that statement? Not everybody should be doing FSBOs, expireds, right? Would you agree with that statement?
I think everybody should be doing it. Honestly.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, and I think in all different personality types, like Bonnie as well, like you're afraid. Like I think it's just getting on the phone and getting used to it. Everybody has a different way of talking to people. I think it could be, some people might not like to do it. However, like it's not a like thing for me, right? It's like feeding my family, and I know it's like the most profitable thing for me, especially as a new agent with getting started, right? Like I don't have to pay for anything. Like I just I can just with the phone and some expired leads subscriptions. Like you can do I think Red X, but there's another one called My Plus Leads. It's $59 for expired and FSBO leads. I don't know if it's different in Canada. I know there's like some rules against how people do expired leads in Canada, but I would just, it's cheap, right? So you can drum up business that way. So, I think it's a great way, just an inexpensive way to get going. That's just my opinion. So.
And I'm going to agree and disagree. What I agree with you on, John, is that everybody should be proactive in their business, but I don't necessarily think that everybody needs to be doing FSBOs, expireds, and circle prospecting. And again, I've built a very successful business without doing those things. And so there's different ways that you can build this business. Now, of course, John, you've built a very successful business the way that you have. And I would say anybody that's listening that is like very prospecting heavy, or like that caters to your style and what you do, John's a great guy to connect with. I'm big on prospecting, but for me, it was always internet leads. I loved internet leads because of the predictable amount of them that I could get. They're high intent in the sense that people are searching. Sphere of influence was always a big one for me, right? Going through my contact list and building those networks. Branding, where I was doing attraction marketing, was always a big pillar for me. I know people that do like digital farming. They'll do postcards and mailers. So like there are multiple ways to build this business. And there are some of you, no offense, but you might never be really good on the phones because it's just not your personality style. And that's okay. So what we can do is kind of figure out how to help you tailor the business to your strengths. Maggie, like knowing you though, and like having spoken to you, I think you would kill it if you were on the phones with more people. Like you have a natural, easy way to talk to people. I think it would be for you specifically, it would make a lot of sense to do something similar to what John's doing, sprinkled in with some of the things that we suggest.
Yeah, I had another question too about leaving voicemails. Like, do you leave voicemails or you just keep trying to call them back?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I don't ever leave voicemails, ever. And I also set up a Google Voice number, so I just have like one barrier between me. So that's another kind of thing I do. But I don't. Yeah, I just keep trying to call them back.
Hey, John, I have a question. For sale by owner, they usually have an objection. If you have a buyer, bring your buyer. I'm not interested in listing. So how do you handle it?
That's a great question. Yeah. So if you have a buyer, bring your buyer. Yeah. Well, I mean, just thank you. And then I might kind of go into those doubt drops, right? So I mean, how certain are you that by doing it this way, you're going to be able to net the most amount of money, like something like that, right? So then they can kind of, and then it just allows them to answer like, well, I don't know. I mean, could it possibly be, by selling it on your own, you're going to leave money on the table? Could that possibly be? I mean, I guess anything's possible. Yeah. I mean, how would you feel if you sold the property and you realize, looking back on it, hey, I probably did the wrong thing there. I probably should have hired someone that actually knows what they're doing. I mean, how would you feel if you knew that after you sold it? Something like that, Okay. So I found that really, really good. Those ones.
And here's the thing. Here's what I'll say. Right now is a very low skilled market to sell listings in. John, would you agree with that? Like, absolutely. It doesn't take a lot of skill in this current market to sell properties. And so the problem with that is because it's easy for sale by owner to sell the home, they think that they're going to save money. But the truth is, we know that in a lot of cases, they might leave 50, 100,000 on the table by not having a professional go through the right process. Even between agents right now, I'm seeing those kind of discrepancies where you have agents that don't have the experience and confidence on having a process with a listing, and they probably cost their sellers 50 grand, 75 grand. I've seen that in many, many occasions. So it is a lower skilled market on the listing side right now. It will not stay like this forever. There will come a point where people like John will actually do even better. And that's with the skill set that John has. When the market starts shifting and there's more and more expireds in inventory, John, because your ability to price properties really effectively in the things that you do, you'll thrive in that market even more so than you're thriving right now. And so it is important that you guys do develop these dialogues and these scripts and like these skills, because it's easy right now. You get a listing and it'll sell. Pretty much anything is selling right now that's like within reason, but that's not a skills-based market. And so our coaching, when the market starts shifting in a different direction, our coaching is going to be focused on teaching you guys how to price a property correctly and how to like time the market. Because what happens in a rising market like the one that we're in, John, and you probably agree with this, is like basically there's like new benchmarks that are being set by sellers, right? But when it starts going the other way, the most motivated sellers start hitting the benchmarks. And those are the ones that like are willing to price the sharpest. They start setting the new benchmarks. And so these agents that are getting away with overpricing properties and the market catching up, they get slaughtered in the next cycle of the market, slaughtered. And so you're not going to be able to get away with a lot of the sloppiness that we're seeing out there. So any final thoughts on that, John?
Yeah, and then being skilled and expires is just where it's at, right? Because then you're just grabbing those listings when those agents can't they can't price it correctly.
Right. And John will eat their lunch all day.
Right. Yeah, but what a great time to start, right? Because you'll get the chops to do it right now. You kind of make the mistakes, and you maybe get some listings, understand the process, and like you always say, Jason's like just skinning your knees. I think that's the best way to learn, and just like messing it up, like going out and messing up and being embarrassed, and I mean that's how I learned. Honestly, I just went and my conversion went from like 40% of getting listings signed, maybe less. Now I'm at like 90%. So it's like just practice and last year I just went on listing appointments, just go, and I just went without even paying any attention to my conversion, and just wanted to just get the practice. So I would just say get the repetition. It's all about repetition.
Yeah. I'll end it on this note. If you're not being proactive and you're not doing anything to build your audience, then how the heck are you going to sell houses? Don't be a secret agent. Put yourself out there. Be proactive, make things happen, and then build an audience that you can put information in front of consistently of value. And if you do that consistently, and it's not sexy, guys, this isn't $1 million listing. Like, this is like reality. Consistency in doing those things will pay off. And the universe's way of weeding out the agents that don't really want success is by giving them adversity and watching the ones that really don't have a strong enough why just give up way too quickly. So don't give up, persist, have a system that works for you, gets the right mentorship, and it's amazing what you can do in this business. We're very, very blessed to have the opportunity that we do, but I don't think people sometimes come in with the right expectations and they don't rub shoulders with the right people. So you guys are lucky. You're part of an amazing mastermind group. We've got lots of people here like John and myself and people that are here to help you be successful. Utilize that. Check your ego out the door and understand that there's lots of different ways we can build this, but we can only figure out a few different ways that you can build it in your business. Because if John was trying to do 20 things at once, it wouldn't work. If I was trying to do 20 things at once, it wouldn't work. John, thank you so much, brother, for being on, man. I appreciate you giving. There's some great information in those scripts. This is recorded, so I would highly recommend you guys get your notebook out, go back and listen to some of those role plays. There's some really good quality information and questions that John used, and you can tell he's practiced them. He's very smooth. That's hours and hours of practice. You don't just get to that overnight. Like, you have to put in the work, and if you put in the work, the money will be there for you. So have an amazing day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. If you really found this valuable, smash the like button below, subscribe to our YouTube page, and then look for more amazing content.